second lecture of this workshop of the second day. And this lecture is taken by Dr. Priyanka Paliwal. So as she is one of the coordinator of this workshop, you have been hearing her and seeing her also. She is the most dynamic and beautiful lady of our department. And we have been, as she told, we have been working together as a team. She has more than 15-year experience in teaching and research. And her area of specialization is power system planning, distributed generation, and microgrid renewable energy. And she has a lot of expertise in hybrid power system and grid integration of renewable energy sources. And this is her PhD topic as well. And she has a lot of good publication in SCI Journal. I think one of the best in our department. Recently, she has published a lot of good journals paper, SCI Journal papers. And she is instrumental for developing a renewable energy lab and advanced power system lab in the Department of Electrical Engineering. And she has a lot of expertise in various softwares, and she has in charge of the power system simulation lab also. And she has conducted various training programs. She has done a lot of publication, as I told you earlier, in various reputed journals. And she has got Best Teacher Award in teaching also, I think 2011. Yeah, in 2011, she got a Best Teacher Award in Electrical Department also. So I am very privileged to introduce all of you, Dr. Priyanka Paliwal, and she is going to deliver a lecture on Internet of Things, a smart grid perspective. Over to you, Priyanka.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful introduction. First of all, a request to all of you to please put your mics in mute position. Ma'am, can you please put...
Yeah, I'm doing that. Yeah.
Chat message. Ma'am,
Yeah.
am I audible?
Yes, now you're audible.
Okay. So, first of all, I would like to emphasize that if I'm not audible at a certain point, please send me a message so that I can rectify certain things at my end. Secondly, if you want to interact with me on some point, please feel free to send me a message again on chat so that I can take your question and we can discuss. I would like this session to be interactive so that everybody can be a part of this session. So, with your permission, Tripta ma'am, can I start? I request everyone to please mute their mics.
Yeah, I'm requesting again and again all the participants, please mute your mic. I used to mute from here, but again somebody unmute. So please take care of this. Then only we will enjoy her lecture. So Priyanka, you can start now.
Yes, ma'am. The mics are still not muted from your end. Please put it off.
I have muted all. Then it becomes your is also mute. You are also muted. Once I mute all, you also become muted.
Now, am I audible? Am I clearly audible to all?
Yes.
All right. So, welcome. I welcome you all to this session. So, I'm going to talk on Internet of Things and a smart grid perspective of Internet of Things. As we have been hearing about the Internet of Things since yesterday, Nilay Khare sir gave a lot of good presentation, a lot of good introduction on Internet of Things in yesterday's session. You are already aware of what Internet of Things is and applications. There are several applications of Internet of Things, such as in smart healthcare, in smart energy, smart home management, and several other applications. Today, I'm going to talk about a very important application of Internet of Things, that is to make my grid smart. I'm going to talk about the smart grid perspective of Internet of Things. In yesterday's session, Manjari ma'am, and in today's session, Trapta ma'am, both of them stressed upon the necessity and requirement of Internet of Things for power system applications. This is just another extension, just looking at it from a different perspective. You see, power system. Yes, Trapta ma'am, the participants have been complaining that they're getting a lot of noise.
Okay. Noise from
Ma'am, am I completely audible?
from me. You are completely audible.
Okay, because the participants have been sending me message that
We are getting echo, ma'am. That's all. Why so?
I'm just now. Tell me, am I more audible now?
Now it's good, ma'am.
Now is it good? All right, then I will continue with this only. Yeah.
Yeah, Priyanka. I think this is better rather than using.
This is better.
Yeah, it is
Actually,
better.
ma'am, it's opening up, and that is why this kind of equals to me. Please make me the host again. I'll move the participant from here.
Okay. How to do that?
Ma'am, you please go on the top panel and there in meeting, or you just go to my name on the side.
No, I'm doing that.
Dr. Avinash Sinha.
So many people.
Dr. S. Jayachit.
I am not able to do that.
Dr. S. Jayachit.
Do it.
Yes, Jagan Mohan, he has to approach.
Jatan Mohan,
Jagan Mohan.
please, Jatan Mohan.
Jagan Mohan.
Jagan Mohan, please mute your mic, please. Jagan Mohan.
Dr. S. Jayachit.
Dr. S. Jayachit, please mute your mic.
And Dr. Avinash Sinha.
And Dr. Avinash Sinha. Please do that.
Ma'am, please assign the role of host to me. All right, I have done it now. I have done it now.
Okay.
And I'm doing call. Now, am I audible now to everyone? I believe now I'm much more clearer to everyone now.
That's good, ma'am.
Yeah, good.
So now I'm starting. I'm just sharing the presentation now. Okay. So I'm just using this application to make my grid smart. It's an important point of difference that everybody of us should realize that a grid belongs to the electric. But when we talk about the smart grid it is a concept. It belongs to everybody from electronics, from computer science. Please mute your mics. Yeah. Please keep your mic muted position. I request you all to keep your mic in muted position. I'm going to talk about the smart grid perspective of Internet of Things. I'm just putting this on the presentation mode now, and let us start. Ever since the Kevin Ashton coined the term Internet of Things, so 20 years back in 1999, while making a presentation on idea of Procter Gamble, this Internet of Things has existed, and it has been put to various applications. If you look at the history of Internet of Things, it existed way before that. And the first evidence of Internet of Things has been found when the local programmers from this Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh use the Internet of Things to connect. What they would do is they would connect to the local Coca-Cola vending machine, and they would like to know whether the drink is available or whether it is cold. So that would All right, people are still complaining that there is a lot of noise. So I hope this sounds better now. Okay, good now. So, before I formally begin with Internet of Things, and although many people have proposed various definitions of Internet of Things, I would like to propose the one which is being put forward by IEEE, being put forward by IEEE, that Internet of Things is a network of, this is a network of, hello? So Internet of Things, this is an network of the uniquely identifiable things. Things are uniquely identifiable, which means that they have the unique ID. They have the unique ID, like you have your number. They have their unique ID. So they are just allow me to put these earphones on. And then yeah.
Participant, please close your mic.
It's not going to become possible to continue with.
Yeah, and it is very and it is very easy. If you see in the screen, the mic is coming. Just mute that. Click that mic. Otherwise, the noise are coming. I think. Please go ahead. Priyanka, please go ahead.
So, Internet of Things is a network of uniquely identifiable things which are being connected via sensors and actuators, and they can be accessed anytime, anywhere. So you see, this ubiquity, that is the access which can be obtained anytime, anywhere. This is an essential feature of Internet of Things. So you can access the information anytime, anywhere, and this information can be utilized for obtaining various kinds of controls. So I'm just putting this Internet of Thing applications to smart grid. So what is a smart grid? So you have this conventional grid, you put some amount of computational intelligence to it, you impart networking abilities to it, and what you get is a smarter grid. So if we talk in general, what makes a person smart? A person becomes smart in general if he has the ability to communicate, and if he's in charge of the condition, that is, he is able to take the actions based upon various conditions. So a smarter grid is one which is able to communicate, that is, it is able to talk and listen with its counterparts, and the automation, that is, it is able to take the controlling action on its own based upon the requirement. So that is the smarter grid. So if I put the formal definition, it is an electricity network. It is an electricity network which intelligently integrates the actions of all users connected to it, the generators, the consumers, and the prosumers. You're already aware of what the generators and consumers are. Now, the prosumers, you're already aware of what the generators and consumers are. Now, the prosumers are something which have the features of both generators as well as the consumers. That is, they can generate electricity as well as they are also the consumer of the electricity. They are the producers as well as the consumers, and that is why they are called as the prosumers. So you have this electricity infrastructure, and then you have this information infrastructure. What we get is the smart grid infrastructure in all. Now, the question may arise, my grid was working fine. What was the need to move over to the smart grid? So I would like to emphasize the points. The first point is the aging infrastructure. Now, we all now know that, let us say that if at this point of time, Alexander Graham Bell walks in. Yes, Prakash, you can switch off your videos. At this point of time, if the Alexander Graham Bell walks in, he would be astonished to see the modern equipments of telephony. From the one he had invented, now we are using various categories. We are using the mobile phones. We are communicating on Skype. We are communicating on WhatsApp. Now this uh, Google, and there are so many things. But let us say, what will happen if Edison walks in? Edison can see the same age-old grid with which he started. The same wires, the same transformer, the same kind of transmission lines, the same kind of structure. So our infrastructure has aged, and this needs a transformation. And if this needs a transformation, why not to go for a smarter transformation that can cater to our needs for long-serving years? The second very important point why we are moving toward the smart grid infrastructure is the renewable energy integration. Now, the government of India, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, they are stressing a lot upon the renewable energy integration. You see, we started with around 1 gigawatt of solar capacity, PV installed capacity in 2010. Now, in 2022, we have set up this ambitious target of achieving the renewable energy integration by raising the integration by 175 gigawatts. And MNRE proudly flaunts it on its website. Out of this 175 gigawatts, 100 gigawatt has to come from PV, 60 gigawatt has to come from wind, 10 gigawatt has to come from, yes, 10 gigawatt has to come from biomass, and remaining has to come from the small hydro. So you see, this renewable energy integration is a major consideration. Reliability is certainly the market niche for the smart grid integration. I don't know how many of you can recall the famous 2012 blackout which occurred uh, in the time frame of 30th and 31st July. And what had actually happened? It just happened that the breakers which were installed in the Bina Gwalior line, the 400 kV breakers, they failed. Since these breakers were feeding into the Agra Bareilly feeder, that also failed. This led to the cascaded reaction, and what we witnessed was the worst power outage in the history of the power industry by the number of the people affected. Around 60 million people were affected. They were without power for 2 days. 22 states were without power. Delhi Metro came to a halt. The customers had to be evacuated with the help of the disaster management team, which had to be called and the doors were to be opened. 200 miners were stuck in the mines somewhere in the eastern region of the country because the lifts halted. The busiest airport in South Asia, that is the Delhi airport, that was also without power. However, since it is being managed by GMR Group, the power was restored within 15 minutes or so. So you see, the repercussions, they are deep. So everything came to a halt for 2 days. And then we realized that what is the importance of reliability? What is the importance of the reliable system? At that point of time, the US Agency for International Development, that is USAID, it suggested that instead of having a central grid, if we had gone for the microgrid structure, then the reliability would have been far more better and the grid failure would not have been of that scale. And then it was thought of seriously that the microgrids can provide a more reliable solution, and the microgrids can be made smarter, and then they can be integrated in a framework so that it can operate more reliably and more efficiently. Environmental concerns are, of course, the world is looking towards it. And we were developing a lot of nuclear power plants as well before this, before Fukushima happened in 2012. But it is there that we realize that it is more important to pay our attention to the environmental concerns which are arising around the world, and it is more important to stay safe. And that is why environmental concerns have definitely taken in. Now, this is another thing which I would like to emphasize upon. We now have new types of loads coming in. These types of loads actually never existed before. And I would like to emphasize on what kind of loads, such as the electric vehicles. I would like to show a small video on the electric vehicles and then we would discuss a bit of it again.
వాపస్ ఇవన్నీ జాగ్రత్త కూర్చుంటావా
प्रियंका वीडियो की आवाज नहीं आ रही है
Okay.
वीडियो की आवाज नहीं आ रही है प्रियंका
Okay.
and I'm requesting, I'm getting that whose mic is not off frequently. Dr. Rucha Patavardhan and Dr.
So you see, with smart
Shuchiti.
charging, everything changes.
Hello.
So you see, what we have seen is that once the electric vehicles are being connected in, they are very different kinds of loads. The major problem with electric vehicles is that there's a very typical and there's a very peculiar feature that they can act as a load. They can act as a load when they are charging, and they will act as a source when they are discharging. So whenever they are acting as a load, it can so happen that if you connect them to a point, the voltage at that point can dip. Whenever they are feeding in, the grid has to be ready to take in the supply. And that is why this kind of consideration has to be given when we are going for the electric vehicles charging and discharging. Now, let us come to the other point, how IoTs can facilitate smart grid. We have talked about the IoT, we have talked about smart grid. Let us now see how the IoT can facilitate smart grid. So you see, there are three types of applications primarily where the IoT can find its role. IoT gateways in home and industrial grid systems, IoT gateways in transmission, distribution, and utility companies, and AMI and smart meters. I'm not going to talk about AMI and smart meters because Manjari ma'am has already covered this topic yesterday, but I'm going to talk about the other two ones. So let us see how the role of IoT gateways in home and industrial systems. Now, what is a gateway? This gateway is a physical hardware or software which serves as a connecting medium between the cloud, the sensors, actuator, and the thing. That is the intelligent device. So that is the gateway. IoT gateways enable a wide range of connectivity to home area network or building area network protocols like Zigbee, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and local area network. Now, what kind of Wi-Fi technology that you should be connecting, technology that you should be choosing is again a question of choice. Because you see, not only there are many Wi-Fi technologies available, also it is a moving target considering that new technologies are coming in. But let us say that if you want to connect two devices which are sitting just 30 meters apart and a very low amount of data is to be transferred, it doesn't make any sense to go for a very high speed, high range Wi-Fi. A Bluetooth can serve the purpose. So based upon what is my requirement and what is the requirement of the technology, the kind of technology can be used. Again, there could be various other configurations, like you can go for the peer-to-peer or many-to-many network. Let us, for example, take that there are devices named as A to Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and each device is sitting, let us say, 10 meter apart. So let us say that the distance between A and Z is going to be 26. Let us say that they are sitting 100 meters apart. So distance between them is going to be 2600 meters. Now, if I want A to communicate with Z, I need a range of entire 2600 meters. But if I go with a technology so that A passes on the information to B, B passes on the information to C, C to D, and so on, I just need each device to have a 100-meter range. So based upon what is my requirement, I should go for the type of connection technology and type of configuration. Devices or sensors can connect to the gateway, which in turn can connect to the cloud. So you see, the devices and sensors, they can sense the information from the intelligent device, and then this information can be passed down to the cloud. It can go to the controller can process the information, decide upon the appropriate controlling action, and then via actuator, this controlling action can again be communicated back to device so that the appropriate control action can be taken. This allows the user to access the sensor data remotely through their mobile devices from any location at any time. Again, the feature of ubiquity has come into picture. So, next is the role of IoT gateways in transmission and utilities companies. This provides utility companies with a broader view of energy distribution patterns. So the utilities company can do a lot. Now they have this idea they can identify what are the peaks, what are the valleys. They can analyze the energy distribution patterns. They can analyze the peak load, accordingly plan the load shedding schedule, and they can give priority to the important loads. And that all can be done once you have the broader view of the energy distribution patterns. Even the redundancy on the utility company's part can be planned accordingly once I have the access to this information. Then you develop a demand response program to optimize energy distribution based on consumption patterns. So once I have this consumption pattern, I can develop a demand response mechanism. And based on this demand response mechanism, we can go for what we call as time of use pricing. Recall back in the I think many of you would be able to relate with me. We had this kind of system when we used to use this STD phones, STD calls. There we had this kind of system. We used to have, if I wanted to make a call in the morning hours, I would be charged full. If I wanted to make it, let us say that if I can defer it till 7 p.m. in the evening, I would be charged half. If I go after 11 p.m., then I would be charged 1/4. So based upon the traffic, I would be charged differently on my different time of use. So the utility companies can develop a time demand response program to optimize energy distribution. Data analytics to predict load demands and enable dynamic pricing options. Once you have the data, you can put this data to a variety of use. You can go for data and you can analyze this data, and there is a lot of thing which can be done and a lot of planning which can be done. So data analytics has a lot of role in power system planning and management. Collect energy data from the sources, wind, solar, which are generally variable. Now, this is a big problem. We can, of course, say that we are going for the integration of 175 megawatts by 2022, but are we actually prepared? You see, this when we talk about 175 megawatt, this amount of power is not available all the time. The wind may not always blow, and the sun may not always shine. These sources, they are highly intermittent in nature. And that is why it is difficult to predict power from them. And that is why we cannot completely rely on these sources. And that is why it is essential that we have appropriate forecasting technique which can forecast the amount of power which can be obtained from wind and solar, and appropriately energy markets can be scheduled. I'm going to skip this topic since Madam has already spoken on this. Now, once we have talked about what is a smart grid, and once we have talked about what is the role of the IoT and how IoT can facilitate smart grid, the grid also has to be ready at the receiving end so that the appropriate balance can be maintained. So what requirements? Yes, Mr. Balkrishna, what is the issue? You can come up with your question. Mr. Balkrishna, do you have a question? You raised your hand. Okay. So I'm going to continue. So the first and foremost requirement at the smart grid end is the smart sensing technology. Unless we have appropriate sensors, we cannot make the sensing and the appropriate control action. The controllers are also based on sensors only actually. And that is why they become essential. Now what we call as the smart sensors, let us see. So They are the low cost one, so that they can be economically deployed in large numbers. Ultimately, we are moving towards the smart grid so that we have greater efficiency and greater economy. And that is why it is essential that each and every component is cost optimized. And that is why they should be low cost. They should be physically small, virtually non-existent, so that they can embed themselves well in the grid infrastructure. Wireless, this is a important thing. This is an important point, as the wired connection may not typically be possible. In fact, most of them are usually battery powered, and that is why they should consume low amount of power so that the battery can last for longer intervals of time. They should be robust to minimize or eliminate the maintenance requirement we have installed, so that the maintenance on the grid part can be minimized. And if the sensors themselves require maintenance, then this will be of no use. And that is why this should be done. They should be self-diagnostic and self-healing. If at all a problem comes in the sensor, they should diagnose the problem by themselves and they should go in the self-healing mode. In fact, self-healing is a basic characteristic of the smart grid as well as of the smarter infrastructure, that it is able to take the appropriate controlling action and it is able to heal itself in the event of any power fault, any problem. They should be self-calibrating or accept calibration commands via wireless thin link so that they can be calibrated from time to time. Now, what are the drivers for smart grid? We will discuss, we can categorize this broadly into two categories. What are the drivers from the utility perspective and the drivers from the consumer's perspective, which we shall see later. So now we can see a grid which is much more efficient with reduction in T&D losses. Peak load management. Now because as I told you that once you have the data which is being available, the redundancy can be planned and accordingly the peak load management can be done. The peaks and the valleys can be identified, and that is why this can lead to an option of direct load control, reduction in power purchase cost, better asset management can be done, and the grid can be made increasingly visible. The self-healing grid. You see, as we discussed previously as well, this self-healing is a very important feature of the grid. In fact, one of my PhD candidates, she worked on this topic only, and she had gone for the optimization and so that the grid can be restructured whenever a fault comes in. So this forms a prospective research area, and many of you can continue your research in this topic. Renewable energy integration. As we discussed before, that the MNRE is planning to integrate a large amount of renewable energy. And that is why when we are putting an intermittent source in, the grid has to be ready to accommodate that much of intermittent generation without the loss of stability, without the loss of the voltage and frequency parameters. And it should be able to take in that much amount of stochastic variables in the grid. So from the consumer's perspective, you see, you can expand access to electricity power for all. When we have a grid which is more efficient, we can probably save some amount and the power can be extended more efficiently to all the consumers. Improve reliability of supply to all consumers, no power cuts, no more DG sets and inverters. In fact, reliability has seldom been a criteria to us earlier. We were quite used to power cuts. So with smarter grid, now the consumers are looking towards a more reliable option so that we can save on our cost on DG sets and inverters as well. Improve quality of supply. That is, we don't need any voltage stabilizers. You see all our equipments we have at our homes, all our sophisticated equipments, let it be television sets, let it be your air conditioners or your refrigerators or your laptops, they all come with voltage stabilizers. Why? Because the quality of supply, the power quality is not up to the standard, and we are susceptible to voltage fluctuations as well as frequency fluctuations. So with smart grid, we are stressing upon the quality of supply so that this need for voltage stabilizers can be eliminated. User-friendly and transparent interface with utilities. Increased choices for consumers, including green powers. You see, this is happening in the European countries where the consumers have the... yes, Veena ma'am, is there a problem? You wanted to ask some question? Veena Verma ma'am? Veena Verma ma'am, did you want to ask a question? All right. So increased choices for
So
consumers.
please close your mics. Some of you are not closing your mics, muting your mics. Children voice is so clear. And I have the name of the people I'm just going to write in the chat box, those who are not closing the mic.
I
Please
request
see
you to
the
please
chat
turn
box.
off your mics, all of you. It would benefit all.
Yeah, Priyanka, please.
Ma'am, I'm clearly audible.
Yes, you are clearly audible. Yes.
All right.
Please go ahead.
So we have this increased choices for consumers, and as I told you, that in European countries we already have, they're already providing this option to consumers that you can purchase green power if you want to, and in return you get some renewable energy certificates. So that kind of option can be given to consumers. If I am more environment concerned, then I can purchase green. I can ask the utility to provide me only green power and not the power which is being generated through the conventional sources. Prosumer enablement. Now, since I can say that if I have, let us say that if I install a solar PV plant at my rooftop, and let us say that if I want to sell this electricity to grid, I should have that kind of option. I should have that kind of choice available with me. So the prosumer enablement has to be provided, and that can also be done only when the proper flow of information can take place between the utilities as well as from the consumer side. So options to save money by shifting loads from peak periods to off-peak period. So as I gave you the example of the STD calls as well, on the similar lines, let us say that if I get an option of time of use pricing, and if I am being told that if I run my washing machine at 9 a.m. in the morning, they're going to charge me more. And if I run it at 4 p.m. in the evening, they're going to charge me less. I would preferably go with the second option. So the similar kind of options can be provided with the time of use pricing. So, what a smart grid is expected to be: ensure the reliability to degrees never before possible, maintain its affordability. You see, India is governed by economics. So, until something is affordable, it is not possible for it to sustain. Now, when I started with my PhD work, and I was working on, as Tripta ma'am told you, I worked on hybrid power system. The cost of power which was produced from solar was around 13 rupees per kilowatt hour, and from wind it was around rupees 7 per kilowatt hour. Now you see this Riva Ultra Mega Solar Power Project which has come up, which is a joint venture of Madhya Pradesh Vidyut Vikas Nigam Limited and the Madhya Pradesh state government. You see, they are providing power at the cost of as low as 2.96 rupees per kilowatt hour. I recently heard that there is a solar power plant at Bhadla in Rajasthan, and they are providing at rupees 2.44 per kilowatt hour. So that is even then what is being provided by the conventional sources, and that is why we can see that in near future we can have access to a power which is much more affordable than what we have been doing as of now. Reinforcing our global competitiveness. You see, it becomes essential sometimes. Germany is leading the world with lot of solar PV plants being installed. Japan has moved towards complete distribution automation with the energy storage devices it's being installed.